to this episode 232 of Frame and Reference. You're about to drop into a conversation between me, Kenny McMillan, and my friend Ed Moore, BSC, DP of Hijack Season 2. Enjoy.
Is there a reason for your, because at this point, your Zoom setup is fancier. Is it just to impress people you're applying for jobs for?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I can do different colors. Do you want a different color?
No, I love blue, but
I can do. It does kind of an awful pink. That's awful, right?
Yeah.
My issue is that it's too bright. But if I bring the level down, flicker, because it's an awful. What I need is a Prax spark here with a better transformer. Yeah. So that's where I'm at with my life.
Hard to invest in light ribbon for your shelf.
Yeah. Yeah, although it's 100% tax deductible, I guess. So
true, yeah. Honestly, when I first started this show, I was using my C500 as the main cam, and I had full my keynotes where I did the whole thing, and and I thought that's overkill. But then same thing when I'd apply for jobs, they're we're gonna talk on Zoom to the DP, and it's hey. And then I noticed after a while I was all right, there's too much stuff. I got to use this equipment at some point for on our work. And the more and more that I reduce things, no one's reactions changed.
Yeah,
really? No, it was still Now this setup, people are wow, that looks great. I've had I've consulted on CEOs Zoom calls.
Really? If you have any sort of shallow depth of field on your Zoom call, it's a win, and it's not the sort of awful Zoom version. So yeah, this wall is 1 meter behind me, so this was hard. I was I can't go. I'm not going large format for my Zoom camera, but so I have an X-T4 that's working pretty well.
Right as it snaps focus to the background.
Yeah. So tell me if it does that. I think I'm okay. It's holding on.
I actually, so I have, where is it? It's over here. I have GFX 50R.
Oh, hello.
That's
good. That's a company expense waiting to happen.
Yeah, dude. I overpaid for it like an idiot too, because I didn't realize that I was bidding on a camera in Australia. So the shipping was pretty rad, but I had an XT3 for the longest time. I just loaned it to my buddy, but those even the older Fuji XT4 they still rip.
Yeah, they're great. The only reason I don't use it is I had a job a few years back that just suddenly, for reasons completely not to do with me, extended its prep by 3 weeks. And I was this is imaginary money that I don't have and so I might have bought a Q, the monochrome one, ultimate pretentious DOP points. And I love it. And so, if you go on my website, you can see my pretentious behind the scene. I cannot pour a black and white, high contrast, grainy, behind the scenes candid into my soul. I can't get enough of them. And then I beat myself up because I start every shoot with it on my shoulder and it's ready to go. And I'm this is going to be so good. And then the shoot, then it's day 120 and I don't want to see any cameras that I don't want to see. But I usually have great stuff from the first half of a shoot.
Yeah. I probably, my X100, I probably the first year, maybe 2 years, I exclusively had it in a very contrasty black and white mode in 16:9 too, not even full. It was I went for it.
Commitment.
Yeah. And I think I had a pearlescent. I had a half pearl or a full pearl on it too.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Nice. Bit of halation.
Well, those filters are I had to get rid of, there's two actually, but I was going to say I had to get rid of it because, it's too common. Everyone's, diffuse. I'm starting to get back into just a sharp image, but
okay. Let's go full Ansel Adams.
Yeah, well, I got a Ansel Adams right there.
Oh, we even managed to cross focus to it.
Nice, good for me. Yeah, the post office here came out with a field notes and a stamp collection, so that's all the stamps.
Oh, nice.
But I think the diffusion, I try not to be, tell me if you struggle with this. Things that people like, I like. I just have to accept it. I'm not niche. I'm not like, I like things that are enjoyable.
That's okay.
But then
That's allowed.
But then diffusion being the one, everyone, once Black Promise hit YouTube, everyone's using that on all their photography, all their video, all this stuff. Yeah. And so now I have to like consciously be like, you know what? No, I don't like pretty things,
Yeah. I mean, yeah. On the Leica, I've got a yellow, like I'm team no lens cap on stills cameras. Yep. Just get rid of the barrier, right? So it's usually a UV filter, but on the monochrome, I've just have a yellow black and white filter, and it's so great. And then I have Lightroom set up to just do like plus 80 contrast on everything I import, and that makes me happier. It's great fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, I hear you with the filter, and also the lighting and some of the guys on YouTube, the lighting they do in their studios is really good, and it's really difficult, especially the ones that have got glasses. They've got like a 7-foot octadome with a grid in there, and there's no reflection in glasses. I'm like, that's genuinely hard, like arranging all of that stuff, keeping an eye line. Like there's plenty of DPs couldn't do that.
I still fuck it up on documentaries all the time when they show up and this subject has glasses, and I'm just like, because the subject, like all the ones I've done have been classic. Like you've got an hour to set up, and then we're going, and then the subject's gone. And then the subject always shows up 30 minutes early. So
yeah.
And then they always have glasses, and I'm like, I had this whole ready to go, and then the director's like, bro, you need to. And I'm like, I gotta move.
Well,
You're gonna be mad at me.
I was lucky enough in the summer, whilst shooting a bit of Neuromancer, to work with the gaffer Dave Smith, who Steve Yedlin's gaffer when he's in the UK, and they came up with they were doing the kind of window shaped reflector covers, so like any reflection is just a natural window, which I really need to do. So yeah, maybe that's the answer for the YouTubers.
Yeah, the YouTube lighting now has made it so that documentary lighting is more challenging to not make it look like a YouTube video.
Oh yeah,
because they're just doing good documentary lighting. So now you have to do something else.
And starting out, I must have shot like 1,000 headshot interviews in various ways. The way that used to be like really cool with a little kicker and like a nice keener flow, or if you're like really there for a while, you might put like a 8x grid cloth out or something. Now just looks really naff. It looks like you're sort of doing an intentional nostalgic TV interview. So yeah, like the proper documentary guys are all like cool natural light, interesting locations, and like lit interviews. It seems to be disappearing, apart from when you sit down with like Obama and like someone from Hard Copy. Is that a show? Is that a fictional one from The West Wing? And they do the classic across the room double interview news thing.
Yeah, the when you were saying the nostalgic interview, there's something about the old DVD special features where they would get them. There was the mall, like you get your photo taken at the mall, and they had that backdrop. And then they would take that backdrop for the interview of the special features, and then they would either hit it with the cookie cutter light on the backdrop, or it would be like a blue splash.
Definitely blue splash. Team blue splash. Yeah, Benedict Spence and I have spoken a lot about blue splash. Yeah, it's good fun. It's good fun. And I have a 3-year-old and a 7-year-old, and when both of them have their photos taken at school, there is still those grey backgrounds are still very much in circulation. It's good to see.
It's honestly I think I'm very much a it's in the ether type person. Like it's not when people go, Jinko jeans are coming back. I'm like, it's gonna, whatever that is, it's that timeline thing. It's gonna apply to everything. And I think we're gonna start bringing, people are like, oh, how come movies today look whatever? I want them to look like the 90s. It's like, you don't. You want it to look like The Matrix. But I don't know if you want it to look like, but I do think people will probably start doing that.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. Bring back little headlights and yeah, I'm there for it.
This is a good question for you. I keep seeing, let's call them prospective cinematographers online talking about how much, and film viewers. I think this is more the issue is like you're on a film forum, a movie forum, and lesser experienced people are all decrying this idea of quote unquote Netflix lighting. And I've talked to other DPs about it, and I don't think it's incumbent upon, or I don't think it's Netflix's fault necessarily. It's just Netflix was making a lot of stuff and the quality of low budget has gotten higher. So it's like the weird thing where like, back in the day, low budget looked low budget. So your expectations were set accordingly. Now low budget actually looks quite nice. Same thing with the YouTube lighting.
Yeah, I see a lot of that stuff, and it often makes me angry. Yes. I think it's, you can't. Yeah, it's an attention economy, right? And like the sort of easiest to grasp ideas get the most attention quickly on all of the various platforms. So, I see a lot of accounts that feel quite cynical to me. So I don't necessarily believe they really believe what they're saying. But it'll be some combination of like nostalgia and nerd and like movie sometimes, and they'll pull all this stuff. And like you can prove any point you want by like cherry picking examples, but I saw one the other day that was comparing the lighting on the two Devil Wears Prada movies and saying that like the DP is unable to use shadows, and I didn't watch the entire video, but I watched 5 minutes, and it was just like one example, like in a lift, and I'm like, I just found that you just don't know what you're talking about really here. Like it all of the basis of your discussion is crazy. Like nobody has forgotten how to do anything. Like I have forgotten the name of the DP on those films, but like they know what they're doing. So I think, a lot of the stuff harkening back to, you see the same discussion come up constantly with like practical effects. Right. There's a general sort of assessment that anything that's real is great, and then but how you define what real is sometimes it's like a rubber monster, and sometimes it's like lighting that is contrasty, like it's just, it fits the vibe. And I think a lot of without naming any names, a lot of the things that are sort of harkening back to recreating that vibe, I think are unsuccessful in that they're trying to ape something that when it was being done, they've sort of misunderstood the lessons about it. Like pure nostalgia is kind of uninteresting, I think, beyond a certain point. And yeah, Netflix lighting, it's like I've shot things for Netflix. Like there is no like Netflix like lighting police that come to the set and are like, whoa, what the hell are you doing? So you're cherry picking examples of stuff on the platform to support this particular argument to get views, I think. So it feels a bit generous to me.
Well, and I've mentally blocked out that Devil Wears Prada video because the thing that I have a problem with is because I'm not a let's call it known expert in my field, my friends still feel the need to send me stuff like that.
All right.
Where they're like, oh, see, check, look, like you're interested in this, right? And I'm like, that shit pissed me off so bad. Because and it's always like they're like 80% correct, right? They're like not in that example, but they're just correct enough where if you didn't know what they were talking about, you would buy that they're they know what they're. It's like the Chat GPT thing. What's the phrase? It's like it's an expert at everything I'm not an expert in, but needs work on stuff I am an expert in.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I get it. Yeah, there's just so much more to filmmaking than kind of it's so reductive, the argument that it's all about these particular things that or the criticism is sort of the most boring sort of criticism is when someone is like critical of something on the basis that they want it to be something that it just isn't. Like, you have to judge things for like what they are and not be like, I wish the Devil Wears Prada looked like The Godfather. Well, it's not going to. Like, it's like, it is what it is, and those actors are going to look like a certain way, and that's doing your job as a cinematographer, is like delivering a look. That look is hard to do. Like, it's freaking hard. Like, so
that was the other thing. I was like, that's difficult beauty lighting you're shitting on. Like,
yeah.
Because I think at one point he said like they just didn't, either he said they didn't light it or something along the lines of like they didn't light it and there was just one light off to the side. I was like, well, first of all, it's top light, fuck you, but it's very lit. It's overlit intentionally.
Yeah.
But
And a lot of time people are comparing everything to like the same 10 films they remember from when they were like 10 years old. And you go, well, part of this is like survivorship bias. Like, you compare all the films you remember from like 20, 30 years ago are the absolute classics that are the best. So like, you have to be careful making the argument like, oh, it was better back then, because like, look at all the other films that, like some of these films are masterpieces, and you're comparing like an average thing now to just like the best film of that decade. I think that's a little unfair sometimes.
Well, it does. One thing that, not to like toot my own horn, but like one thing that I was really happy that I developed, I remember, what was it? I think Twilight had come out, or like a third Twilight or something like that. And I was sitting there like bitching about it, like, oh, who cares? Like, these movies suck, whatever. And my friend Sebring goes, oh, it's just not made for you.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? And she goes, it's not made for you. And I was like, well, of course, all movies are made. She goes, no. It's not made for you. Like,
yeah.
And just for whatever reason, that stuck with me. And I started, obviously I was going through film school at the time, so I was being calibrated a little better. But the idea of meeting the art where it is makes everything for you. If you go into it with good intentions and an open heart, you suddenly, I've liked almost everything I've watched. Now, that's not great for film criticism, but it is great for loving movies.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's a nicer way to enjoy art, for sure.
Yeah, my letterbox is just all 5 stars. Everyone gets 5 stars. You did so good, sweetie.
Yeah. But it's just Devil Wears Prada. It's the only thing you've watched. Every
it's just
all the spin-off content. Is there like Devil Wears Prada, Tokyo Drift? There should be.
Devil Wears Gucci. Devil Wears
Devil Wears kind of like a slanket on her day off because it's cold and like no one's not gonna know. And then
Devil Wears Slanket.
Yeah, that could be maybe some more contrast. She's in a cabin in the woods. There's a fire.
Yeah. There's a fun movie, Cabin in the Woods.
Oh yeah.
I've been dancing around it because there's only one episode. But Hijack looks good. I don't know how much.
I thought you'd seen. Did we not send you all of the press screenings? I could have got you all the episodes. Oh man,
could you?
Let's talk about Hijack. Yeah, absolutely. Well, also, I like here right now. The listener knows exactly when this episode airs, but I don't know. Yeah. So like,
that's a good point.
I don't know. So I don't want to. I mean, let's talk about the show in general. I can ruin it for you. The first. As of right now, the first 2 episodes are on the platform. It's series 2. So we are back with I'll get the jokes out of the way, the world's least lucky commuter, Sam Nelson by Burgess Olber. So the first series, which we did a couple of years ago now, I shot all episodes of this time round, and I nearly died. So this time round, I'm doing 1, 2, 3, and then I come back for 7 and 8. All of those with the showrunner Jim Phil Smith directing. And this time he's not on a plane, he's on a train. He's in Berlin. I love this series. I loved series 1, and I just feel like Jim and co just were like, how can we like triple down on the character? So visually it was like, something to really get my teeth into this time around.
Yeah, and also okay, he's on a train. I did giggle a little that we're just doing Hijack on a train, but we're not. I mean, we are, but we're not. It's different and it's cool, and I like the direction we're going.
Yeah, listen, trust in the writing and directing is what I'll say. Those guys have got some game. So yeah, like I remember. So Jim Phil Smith and I like met up when he was sort of starting to storyline everything. But when we met up in the London Transport Museum and sat on there's like a little model of a tube train. We didn't go to an actual tube train, but we just sat on this tube train and he like pitched me the plot, and I was like, there were lots of quadruple takes in that, in my reaction to everything that goes on. So there's quite a ride, pun intended, coming up, and I think he. It's a show called Hijack with Idris Elba. Like, guess what's going to happen to Idris Elba in series 2? Like, that's the fun of it, I think. And yeah, as you've seen, like everything is not quite as it seems with what's going on. But yeah, as soon as Jim was like, I think it's going to be Berlin and the U-Bahn, and the character is in a way sort of darker place psychologically because of the events of the first film. I was like, okay, like we can really crank up the like look. So
we're adding contrast.
We're adding everything. So series 1 was spherical on the LF, and this time round, we're Alexa 35 and we're crystal anamorphics, the weirdest possible anamorphics we could find. We tested a bunch, and they're definitely the weirdest. And we had a really like mismatched set. They were all different eras of those lenses, and crucially, lovely Ari Rental here in London managed to find there's one 50mm that had been modified, I think, in the world to have close focus, because that was our big. You need to get in with the characters. It's mostly handheld, certainly on the train, all largely operated by the miraculous John O'Tyler. And so having a lens that could get us to 30 centimeters or closer on the 50mm. So I'd say like 85% of the show is shot on that one lens. And then, yeah, I mean, so through so much like color contrast into how I lit it on set, threw away the matte box, everything's coming into the lens. It's flat. I mean, the listeners may have seen episodes. I think episode 8 might have beaten the J.J. Abrams flare count. Like it's
Nice.
Wild. Like we leaned in to the look. It makes me very, very happy.
How do I phrase this? Were you intentionally trying to go bonkers, or was that just the look and you were excited about it?
I wouldn't say bonkers. I would say I always want stuff to look how it feels the characters. Like I'm not interested in naturalism per se, or it to feel very documentary. And I like the
objectivity.
I like the subjectivity in his case. Like I want the
right.
I want the frame to just be really engaging and have an opinion and be I love the sources all being in shot. I mean, also just for the practical sense, like with the practicalities of making this show. Like we obviously shot in Berlin a bit, but also the amazing art department led by Dom Roberts, a production designer. We built these like millimeter accurate trains, different sizes for different types of shot. But our sort of hero one was 2 full carriages long. It was on this SFX rig that could shake it and wiggle it so it pivots in the middle. So when you're looking down, you get all that. It was a giant undertaking, but you're looking in all directions at all times. There's 2 cameras for almost every shot. So all those sources being in the frame, and then you're trying to sell the illusion of movement. We had that there was LED volume outside the windows, but because it was such a huge train, like we just couldn't. It would have been impractical to have like really high resolution volume. So we had quite a low resolution pixel pitch out there. So we shot plates in the real U-Bahn tunnels with like a big array. That was great fun. But when you put that stuff onto the side volume walls, like it wouldn't hold up to scrutiny. So then it's just all about like bringing like layers of just like crud on the windows. We wanted the train to feel filthy. You've got stuff going past. You've got endless kind of extras and stuff on the train in the way. The handheld really helps. So like it did feel sometimes like in pre-production, like it was fun to have my hands on a lot of that stuff as well and be sort of part of that team. But it felt a bit like coming up with like a theme park ride when you see the sort of developing like a huge new premium theme park thing. You're like, it's so when we finally loaded up that train with like cast and essays and pressed the like, we called it jiggle and sway. Once we activated jiggle and sway, and you see everyone's kind of, moving together, having that just annoying subway vibe, and the camera is moving with it, and like Jono and the other operators are kind of like, can we just tone it back because I can't hold a frame? And we're like, good, that's great. So yeah, I think the look came, not trying to just be like intentionally out there, but to just make people feel the drama in what is on the surface of it quite a prosaic, dull location. So I've seen a couple of comments being like, that's not what the U-Bahn lighting looks like. And I'm like, well, but we're seeing it through the eyes of a guy who's in a pretty dark place.
Yeah. That was actually one of 2 things I was about to ask, which is when you have a situation where you're able to design the lighting for what should be a real place, and all of the sources are in the shot, what are you doing to give it that stylistic look? Because obviously if you were to just put, tubes in the ceiling, it would kind of look like it does in reality.
Yeah. Well, so Chris Stone's a brilliant gaffer, and Dom Lenoir, who's the head practical electrician, so sort of making all those fixtures up, both absolutely crucial to that. But the real trains have sort of, on the 3/4 sides, they have these long strips, and I couldn't go too far from what the real train looked like because we knew we were going to have to film some of the real trains in Berlin. We could modify it a bit, but like at a glance, like it had to be roughly similar. So, the first thing, you add a grid on all of those overhead lights. So at least you're controlling the spread of it. So those were all, beautifully helped by the arts department. Those are all light boxes that were built and set back in a bit. So, and then divided up into a whole bunch of sections. So Callum Crystal, our lighting programmer, was able to just have, we wanted it to feel like that, as the train was bumping around, you'd have kind of, fluorescent ballasts that were kind of ticking in and out, so that there's endless little flickers that happen. So it was important to separate the train up into sections like that. So we did the overhead, and then I added sort of lower vertical strips just built into the set, so that there would be a source lower down, because I didn't want it to feel entirely top lit. You want to get up and into the eyes of people. And then, in testing, it felt really right to do just a color contrast split between that. So the top light we ended up doing in a really like filthy cyan, and then the lower strips became pretty warm. So you're building that straight in. I added kind of little foot level, more practicals all the way through. There's various points in the show where the power to the train isn't always as it should be, so stuff is flicking out, and I need to make sure that even when you're in a tunnel that there's some sort of light source, even kind of like in an emergency state, stuff like that. And then the other whole part of that was like, how do you get, what does the inside of a subway tunnel look like? The real subway tunnels actually do have quite a lot of lighting and stuff in them, but it's usually off, right? But I was like, the trouble with that is you get no sense of motion, and you're on this for a lot. It's an 8-hour show. You're on there for 8-episode show. You're on there for a long time. So when we shot the plates and the real tunnels, we had great access. The teams were really helpful out there, and we were able to just activate all of the kind of maintenance lighting down the tunnel. So we captured all of that stuff. That was all on the volume, and then we were able to pixel map off where the lights were showing up on that content into sort of LED battens that I had on either side. So as we passed a light on the volume, I'd have something that would be projecting light in, which really helps because there wasn't quite enough off the volume to sort of do it just off that. So yeah, it was a mixture. I mean, it did feel like Mission Control. I would look to my left and there would be like 12 carts full of like other nerds like me doing their little bit of the puzzle. I had endless little displays of where stuff was animating, what direction, what speed, keeping track of all that. And then around the front of the driver's cab, we did have a more traditional higher resolution volume. So that was seeing our straight ahead plates. So yeah, all of that is so proud. It just is all in camera. Like we never had to replace any of those backdrops really, other than to add stuff in that wasn't there for real on the plates.
Yeah. When you're, for this, but also just kind of more broadly, when you're trying to introduce color contrast into a scene, how do you keep it from looking muddy? Like especially just using like white light, like I find myself struggling with that a lot recently, honestly, is like, it looks pretty. And then you start looking at it in a row, you're like, it's not really contrast. It's just mixed.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Well, I think sometimes like, depending on the colors you pick and the color science that you're working all the way through, there can be where the colors meet in the middle. You can get just sort of a gray nothingness that can be quite unpleasant. I had the brilliant DIT Mark Lannister on set, and all his team. He was able to set up we had like HDR 4K live grade off the cameras. So we always had the HDR and SDR to compare. That was something that was really important to Jim. And then we had the colorist Andrew Daniel, who's a genius, and he did it at the Look in London. They did our show LUT, and we because we had the virtue. The show goes to a lot of different places, but obviously a lot of it is on the train. We were able to shoot test material early on, including with Idris on the train, and use that to make a show LUT. So we knew exactly sort of what those color mixes were going to be, so we could kind of look out for that. But Andrew refined it beautifully in the grade. I thought we're really pleased with where it came to. Yeah.
When you're building that LUT, did you kind of do a similar sort of maximalism? Like, did you have was it a little more straightforward, or were you like, we're going full like film? Was there a target, or were you just building the look around what you had?
I think working with Jim, it feels very yes Andy, like in the sense that we never go back. We never feels like we go backwards. It's rarely do we go, we've gone too far with this. It's always where can we take it, and not for the point of taking it further, but just it's interesting as you go through a creative process and the material becomes more refined. You're seeing later and later edits. So when we're in the, when we're first in the grade and you're looking at the show LUT stuff, which felt, it was like 140 odd days shooting. So we were seeing lots of assemblies with the the stuff that Mark and his team had sort of like live graded, but that was more matching the crazy lenses to each other and bits and pieces. We didn't do too much in the way of like hugely changing it creatively. But I was really happy with how those Davies looked. And then you see it with the, in the grading suite with a bit of time between you and the set, and you're like, could it go further? And the answer is almost always that it can, or at least it is with with me, Jim, and Andrew. So yeah, it did go further. I think we increased the color contrast. We took the levels down a bit more in the train, but like held on to. I don't like, and neither do those guys, sort of Stygian gloom where the whole frame is set down sort of nothingness. So there's always something for the eye to hold on to as brighter parts of the frame. But we're sitting down the sort of gamma and mids, and then I shot all pretty high ISO anyway, so there's a bit of texture. Although the Alexa 35 doesn't isn't particularly noisy at high ISOs, but I'd also added I think it was soft nostalgic. One of the Arri textures was
the built-in grains, yeah.
So that helped, and then we added way more, because you also you can see it. You can do tests, you can do like on platform tests, and you see how much like the Apple TV compression takes out. So sometimes what feels like too strong in the suite when you're seeing it like absolutely perfect off the server there. By the time it's on platform, even on Apple, which has obviously like industry leading video compression, like it can take the edge off. So that's really interesting to see. But I think just because of the nature of the show, because it's so heightened, it's so kind of dramatic, that you need you need the image to look a certain way for the audience to kind of like to help. It's one of the factors helping the audience go, oh, okay, I see what we're doing. Like we were talking earlier about like judging a thing for what it is. Like Hijack is a thriller. It's psychological drama. It's sort of seat of your pants stuff. The score is saying that. The writing and the performances and everything is saying that. So I can't be the one person being like, I'm going to shoot this all like street photography. Like it, you have to lean in and join that, get that voice.
Yeah, the compression thing is interesting because the more grain you give it, obviously, the more work it has to do.
Yeah. It's like, dude, come on.
But then also, wouldn't it, like, I'm wondering, what's the math on this? Like, if it's doing more work, it's giving it a higher bit rate, right? It has to. Or does it just eat it?
I think I would be talking out of my area of expertise if
Fair enough.
I would be guessing. I mean, yes. I mean, back when I would be like exporting things to DVD Studio Pro, whatever it was, like looking like a menu that changed it. Yeah, exactly. Those are the days then. Yeah, I felt like I had a sense of how compression worked. I mean, now with like content delivery networks and like everything is like in 1,000 different formats, and the systems are like, seamlessly jumping them between like levels and stuff. I mean, there was a thing with Netflix and grain. I don't know if this is still the case, but Netflix were talking about adding grain as a like player end process that would be defined by metadata, which I have like 30 questions about how that would work. But yeah, it's interesting for sure. Whatever compression they're doing, it holds up. Like you see the grain for sure.
I would love to see the Blu-ray of it.
The
full fat, like,
I recently went back and took some sort of full resolution stills of the final show at the color suite, and that's really satisfying to get the just like absolute as best as it ever is. You find the frame with no motion blur. Yeah, it looks great like that.
I've definitely how do I want to put this? Padded my results when sharing stills with directors or producers by finding that one frame that is perfectly and sharp.
Yeah. I mean, I wish I understand why we have this history with separate publicity photographers and that work is often like, artwork in its own right, and there's a whole different skill set that goes into that. Do I wish occasionally that the shows were marketed with as much of the real show as possible? Yes, I do. But I think that it's hard for any DP will tell you that seeing what is a camera angle that you've really thought about, but it's just slightly uncanny valley because it was taken 2 feet to the left on a different sensor and it hasn't been graded quite the same way. It's so jarring. It's just imagining a musician having someone in the control room sing their own song back to them in the headphones in one semitone sharp. So yeah, it really throws me. But then the publicity guys need all this material months before we finish. But
yeah, but also and it's the timeline that's really at fault here. But for the PR people, we're going back to the idea of commentary, public commentary. I've seen a bunch of times where people go, oh, in service of these cherry picked, things they're doing. Oh, look at this still versus this still. And it's a lot of times early on, but the Odyssey, when stills are coming out from the Odyssey, people were like, why does this look like shit? And it's because it's a set still.
Yeah.
It's not the show. And why are you comparing it to a screenshot from a movie? That's different. Yeah. And the PR people, unfortunately, it's not their fault, but they are starting those arguments unintentionally.
Yes. Well, there's a lot of, people are, I wouldn't, far from an expert, and the opposite of an expert in how to market and publicize.
Oh, same. That's why I'm giving them so much leeway. It's not that they're doing it,
Yeah. It's tough. I think it's, the set stuff is, a lot of the photographers I've known that do that work, they also are doing the separate shoots that they're lighting themselves with the kind of key art stuff, and that's all really, really challenging. I do really appreciate it, not just on my stuff, but when I see online the on-set photographers crediting the DPs on those photos, because I do think it is right that when you are stepping onto someone else's set that they've lit and is being lit from a particular point of view, and you're just sort of, I think that is a courtesy. And very occasionally I see people who seem to have just slightly it's like that, internet meme that ironically, I can't remember who made it, but the guy's like, you made this? I made this. Right. But yeah, that is an absolutely beautiful image of that person in some costume, then makeup that experts have done, in lighting that experts have done. So yeah, I hope, please don't send me hate mail for this, but you guys know who you are. Give the credit, and I love you for it.
Yes, and also, and this is for the younger listeners at home. If you're hired to shoot BTS video, and you put it in your reel, and it doesn't look like BTS, that's sketchy.
Yeah, I've never seen that. Is that a thing? I suppose
I have seen it on people I know's reel.
Okay, yeah, that's not cool.
Not exclusive, it gets piped in, around, but because of the way that a reel is, it's very, it's just enough plausible deniability where you can be, if they asked, you'd be like, oh yeah, no, that's all BTS. But if you're just showing, if the reel's just public.
Sure. Yeah. When did you shoot the Apple F1 movie? That was good. Yeah. Wow.
So this is why I'd say it's for the younger people who are just working on maybe smaller music videos or productions that probably aren't known.
Yeah. Be careful. I appreciate the hustle to get going at that stage. It's hard, but yeah, that is a temptation to be avoided. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. There was something else I was going to bring up. Going back a little bit, we were talking about, the fun of we're doing all the lens flares, doing stuff, but something you said earlier about having most of the show shot on what'd you say, a 50 anamorphic, the crystal?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, such a great lens. And do you know what? That lens was not designed to do what we did to it. Like, long time genius collaborator Jason Cuddy, the focus puller, was on that lens most of the time, and like, we are like slamming into close-ups and like, feeling those moments. So like that lens was getting such a workout, and the way that modification had been done, I think in like the 80s to add like a close focus thing to it, it just, we were, we got to a point about towards the end of our UK bit of our shoot. So we've been shooting for 6-7 months, and you could see the anamorphic element. Like you'd rack focus and you could see the just like anamorphic just go sort of slightly diagonal, and like once you started seeing it, you couldn't unsee it. And I mean, our contact Simon Surtees and Matt Bouncell at Arri they got it. They did amazing work with their lens tech. So I think they had to completely remachine the entire thing. And then Simon flew out to Berlin with 700 bits of carnet paperwork to bring us this lens back, because I'd arrived in Berlin for like our final month of doing all the stuff there, and was like in tears that I didn't have my Hero 50mm. Is it coming? Is it left yet? Can they fix it? Like waiting, and it's like flatlining in a little tiny ER room for lenses. Like, come on, come back to me. And yeah, it's survived to the end, and I hope that it will live to help other people in the future, because it's a very special bit of glass.
Yeah. Well, I got two questions about it. One, you said you're running 2 cameras, so what was on B cam that like seemed to work for you guys? But also, going back to talking about all this kind of maximalism, that's a very restrained way to shoot. One focal length. Were there other places of restraint that felt appropriate?
Well, I mean, one focal length, but just, especially with the ability to be close, like a gigantic use of where that lens was placed. The other lenses, there was a 35 that I liked very much. That was a T14, although it got kind of wild at that end. We had the 25mm crystal, which is, so distorted at the edges that I felt like I had to also carry. I had a few of the Orions, which is funny because like I've used the Orions before, and I'm like, oh, the wacky anamorphics, but the Orions were like my safe lenses, because like I had the occasionally I'd put that 25mm crystal on and just be like, it's too much. Like if because my occasion, the fear with all this is, my feeling with anamorphic in general is the sides of where it's interesting, of course, and I'm slightly suspicious when it gets cropped in and out of that. I can understand. I could imagine myself being persuaded into that on some shows. But if you can't, what's your compositional style? Because if you can't actually put someone over there on the side, then you need to just be careful. So, and we didn't. We did lots of sort of center framing and things, but occasionally you'd have to. And I'd put the 25mm of the Orion on, and it literally would look like a master prime to me. I was like, what is that? Get it off the camera. Like, it's so, suddenly there's like contrast. I mean, there's like, and like edges. And when we were so used to those crystals that, and the VFX team did an incredible job mapping all of those crystals, and they applied every characteristic of those lenses to all of the other stuff we use. So we did a huge amount of a drone on, and we did a huge amount of 4D, and both of those are the.
There it is.
Yeah, it is.
Stephen wanted to know when you'd bring it up, so I'll mark that down.
Yeah, definitely. I saved it this one. But yeah, so both those were the drone was usually the DJI/Hasselblad lenses, and then on the 4D, which we would use sort of rigged on the outside of the train. Even when we could have used another camera, Jim and I's rule was always like, no, let's do it as if it was. The train was really moving. It was the same rule that we used on Hijack 1, where we were like, the camera can never be like outside the plane. Like once the doors close, like there's no convenient popping a porthole and having like a King 24 290 out there on like, so when the camera's out the front of the driver's cab, it's rigged like it's and we're locked to the movement of the train. So you see the world around move, but we're locked in. And so, but anyway, those had the Blazer Remus anamorphic, the 1.5 pounds, and they are a little bit wild, but they're not as wild as the crystal. So all of that stuff was remapped to the crystals, and it just I've seen like the A and B on those VFX shots, and it's just like it makes me so happy. I need to go and like kiss all the VFX people that did that because they in a consensual and friendly way. It just makes so much. The show is also set in the snow. So we had every conceivable type of fake snow on set, but like, the drone stuff, the big wide stuff, there's a lot of digital snow, and like the difference that makes in the drone shots, which are just kind of like the perfect, like rectilinear representation. And then you go like whoop, and you're into just like crazy wonk, and then all the snow is kind of like you're seeing it on the edges of the frame. It really, really makes it. It gives it that, it's Berlin, it's Cold War vibes, like it's all of that stuff. It lends itself so well to the subject matter and where we were. So yeah, you were asking about what would be on the B camera. It would often be, so I think we had 3 different 75 mils that we just color coded, and they would be like good at different things. I remember there being one I always hated. But we had like, I can't remember how that happened. We doubled some lenses between cameras, and then sometimes there'd just be like an extra one that was good at some stuff. We had 100 mil. So the B camera would either be doing like the 35, we'll be squeezed in like a low wide angle whilst Jono was on that 50, or it would be the 75 or the 100 kind of like stacking up people, and that sort of thing. So, we rarely cross shot. It did happen sometimes, and we could facilitate that with, I operated some shots, but for the most part, it was such a technical show in terms of like, I had Jim, director, on one side of me, and I was sitting in front of Mark DIT's monitors, and then next to me I had Callum on the lighting desk with Chris Gaffer on his side. They had monitors, and then on the other side we had Django and Spencer, the virtual production team, with all of that playback and all of that stuff. So it was like a real brain trust of like getting all that stuff working together. So yeah, it was incredibly satisfying.
Did you say that guy's name was Chris Gaffer?
Chris Gaffer, yeah, that's his name. That's what I know. Chris Stone, Chris Gaffer, yeah. There's nominative determinism.
I was about to be like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And
he's not on this show, but I do know a lighting programmer called Shane Buttons, which always makes me laugh.
That's good.
But yeah.
Have you heard of the program, or I guess it's a plugin, Lens Node?
Possibly. That's a similar tool, right, for mapping on distortions onto.
Yeah. They let me, I guess, borrow the program, limited. I was going to write an article. I have like a bunch of articles stacked up and I feel real bad. But on that flight to Paris I'm about to take, I'm just going to knock them all out because I got 13 hours. But I'm mentioning them, A, because it's an interesting thing, but B, because they do deserve some form of public shout out while, giving me their expensive product. But it does, I have the fastest computer you can buy. Basically, then thank God I did it before now. It's still,
now RAM is like the price of a car. Yeah,
bro, storage even
really?
The SanDisk guy came out and said the era of the $100 per terabyte SSD is dead.
Wow,
it's like So we're looking at probably $200. I think it's $200 per terabyte now on SSDs.
Oh wow, it's wild.
So if you can find a deal, get it now. But
yeah,
the lens node thing is cool. It does. Oh, so the whole point being that my computer's really good and it still chugs. And I asked him about it and he was like, I mean, yeah, it's doing a lot of computational shit in there. Like it's just is what it is. But it's like, I think it's an incredibly small team. I think it might be one guy, but you know, I'm sure there's efficiencies he'll find as he goes. But the thing that I found was some of those lenses were just way too wild for me, right? And you can tone it down. You can do, you know, there's a lot of granularity in the plugin. But I did find, like, if I just sat on like a Cook 40, not only the image, it basically just went, you know, kind of gave you some dimensionality, and it pulls a depth map, so it does blur and fall off appropriately, the fall off modeling. But the thing that there's like a color grade to it as well that I was really surprised. And I asked him, he did all his tests, like shooting all the footage, or what do you want to call it? The comparisons with a Sigma, which I have.
Oh, okay.
So I was like, all right, cool. I'll know this is 1-to-1 what it's supposed to look like. And you know how like in music, you'll put a compressor on something or like a Pultec EQ just as glue. That's kind of what it felt like, you know? And so to your point about getting excited about the lens modeling, it's like, that is kind of a fun area that I feel like technology can go into to give it the image that kind of glue.
It's once it feels like, and Jim is a master at this. Like, he has such incredible attention to detail through the whole, you know, process. So that, you know, there's no stone unturned for like making sure, like, wait, hang on, what's that? You know, even stuff like, you know, there's a lot of CCTV and sort of stuff like that where characters are seeing, you know, each other through different eyes. Like all of that, you know, Jim insists that we have all those cameras are real, they're prac, there's someone. So the station, the station set we built, which is remarkable piece of work. I had another full size train on it. I had these like computerized winches that could pull the train through the platform. And then obviously we redressed the station, spoiler alert, into different stations. And that was plastered in cameras, which play a huge part in the plot in lots of episodes. And all of that stuff, there was an actual CCTV operator. And then all of that stuff gets fed back. And then when we're filming other scenes in episode 2, which is waiting for you, there's sequences with Idris looking at those the footage on that, and he's looking at it on CRTs because, you know, Jim's like, that's what they would have in the ancient little, you know, cupboard that he finds himself in. So we get real CRTs, and like these days you have to like, it's like trying to find like an old like tube camera or something, you know, for broadcast.
The vintage gamers have fucked up the market.
Oh, okay, because they're trying to rebuild.
CRTs are expensive.
Yeah, it was tough. And then you know, getting all of the sync issues worked out on stuff like that is a pain. And then you're playing, you know, so then we're playing in real live footage onto those, and then we're rephotographing, and you're getting the like, nothing makes Jim and I happier than seeing like the individual pixels on some like ancient CRT, and then like seeing what happens when you pull the power for real. Like it's you can fake that stuff, but like why? Like, you know, have it and have the characters reacting to it. So yeah, that sort of attention all the way through, I think, is why the show is so successful. You know, he holds it all in the palm of his hand, and you know, whilst individual details, you're like, oh, really? Are we ever going to see that? It's not about that. It's about like having that dedication to just like everything needs to be serving the same goal. The bit that always excites me is when the sound guys, the post sound guys get involved and that stuff goes on. I finally got to visit the sound mix. And obviously like the bit of the sound mix you always want to go to is like Spielberg putting like John Williams' Journey to the Island, like drop that bad boy on the like, that's what you want. And I actually turned up when they were like they're spending like an hour making the like the voicemail on this guy's phone sound like exactly right. And well, okay, like, you know, I'm just going to zoom out. But yeah, when you see it always makes the photography seem like 10 times better because, you know, it's so much information. It's like the sort of base sense is like sound, but pun not intended. So to have, you know, we're talking earlier about it, the sort of theatricality of the photography supporting the stuff. The sound is like, you know, candidate one for that. Like every, you know, those guys miss no opportunity to add texture and flavor to stuff. Like I was watching episode 2, and I've watched episode 2 a million times. But like I watched it again last night at home, and there's like a wide, slow drifting shot that is a shot I like framing a lot. I always like this frame where like you're sort of just skimming underneath some sort of suspended lights. And
Oh, yes.
I noticed last night that just as we go beneath it, they've just added the faintest like electrical, like just as a sort of POV, we go underneath it. And it's just so beautifully done. I mean, there's any number of things like that. The score as well by Anne Mitkin is fantastic. Like when the moment where in episode 1, the doors close, Idris is on, Otto in the driver's cab, like chunks all his levers across satisfyingly, and the train pulls off, and then Anne just drops this like propulsive. It's just, you know, this is why it's not work, right? Like it's those are the flavors that give me nostalgia for stuff that I watched when I was a kid, not because we're like aping a style, but because like filmmaking transports you, and like for a moment you're like in this like heightened sense of like, what's happening? This is so cool. So yeah, that's what makes the 4 a.m. alarms worth it, I think.
Yeah, well, and it's like because like I'm a drummer, but I don't, you know, I'm vaguely musical, you know, but
oh, sorry, jazz
like
yeah.
You
have a very sophisticated sense of meter.
Oh yeah, that may be a good bartender actually, because I can free pour and have the exact right.
Oh, okay.
Like, when
Nice.
I got tested by the like spot tested by the liquor board. They just showed up to my bar and were like, because in Arizona there was like kind of a weird thing about free pouring. You were supposed to measure, so they set up these like little vials in front of me, and there was like a screen in front of it, so I couldn't see them. And they're like, "All right, 2 ounces, 1 ounce, half an ounce, quarter ounce," and I was like, "Whap whap whap whap," and it was perfect.
Oh yeah. You're like,
As a
yeah,
drummer,
I
I got tempo.
Paradiddles. I don't know. Jim's a drummer as well, so occasionally to suck up to him, I use drum references, and he's like, it's better if you don't talk about drumming.
Well, all that is to say that not being musical, I imagine that from my perspective, if you're working on a project forever. Me and Steven were just talking about this. Like, even if you know exactly what you're doing as a DP, you can still get on the bay a little bit. Like, do I know what I'm doing? Is this good? You know. But then when it's set to the music,
every day, yeah, yes, the music helps. Yeah, the music.
Suddenly, it's not even you didn't even do it. You're just like, oh.
No, I know. But do you think the composers? Do you think the composers feel the same way? They're like sitting, writing stuff, and then they see the picture and like, oh no, it seems like, I hope they do. Maybe they're just like, we're saving their butts so hard with this score.
I guess for the composers it's harder because they're kind of at the end of the, when you're somewhere in the middle of the production workflow, the next thing adds on to it. So you're like, you get to see things added and it churches you up, whereas I think when you're at the end, it's like the best thing you get is seeing it on a big screen. Nice sound system. Otherwise it's
I still
polish.
Won't do it, but like at some point, on the bucket list is to attend like a full Air Studios session with the movie up on the projector. And I saw Interstellar live in the Royal Albert Hall, which was the closest I think I'll ever come to that, with the full orchestra. The cast were there. Stephen Hawking was there. It was wild. We were in like row 4 and like watching this orchestra just like dig into like No Time for Caution with the Gavin Greenway, who's if you look up Gavin, he's been like the conductor and arranger and composer in his own right of like everything, and he was conducting, and like I could see like I'm a bit musical, I'm remedially musical, and seeing the score like hurtle across his screen with
Yeah.
the like time signatures changing like every other bar into just wild stuff, and he's trying to hit all this stuff, and everyone's on click track. Yeah, it's good fun. Like, you know, when else do you get to do stuff like that apart from in the movies?
Yeah. Well, and I imagine for the Royal Albert Hall and the Interstellar soundtrack, everyone's just crying half the time.
Oh my God! The organ, the real organ was there, and they got, you know, Interstellar. The guy on the soundtrack plays the organ was there, and he's like, you know, he's not old, but like he's an organist, and they like found him, and like a lot of organists, they're unbelievable musicians. They're often very humble, and they're dedicated to this like bizarre thing, a bizarre instrument that you have to, it like weighs 100 tons and only exists in churches and concert halls, and like, how do you practice? He you know, that classic no time for you know, it's necessary, and it starts spinning, like it was electrifying, and like that cue finishes with those just epic chords. Hans Zimmer's on stage, by the way, playing like his Jupiter 8 or whatever he's got. He's doing some dank pads in the background, but you can see like even the the fucking strings are like soaring away, doing something that's probably really boring technically to play, but like they're just in it, and like that last organ chord just like echoed out in that whole, and then there's like a whole other scene after that where Anne Hathaway's talking about something that nobody heard because like the just room was on fire with people just everyone was on their feet. The orchestra were like it was just like tearing their shirts off, like it's the coolest thing that's ever happened. And like I've been to a few of those, like who doesn't like those concerts? I've been to the Jurassic Park one, was great, Back to the Future, like all those scores are really fun to see played live, but like that one particularly just with the organ, so wild diversion. But yeah, like best thing I've ever seen, like a live musical event that's gonna be hard to top.
Yeah, I mean, we've got the Hollywood Bowl here that does a lot of stuff like that, but you know, obviously it's outdoors, so that I think it's something about being in the hall probably is, you know, just far more reverberant and just moves you a little more.
They knew what they were doing when they built that place. Yeah, it's epic. Yeah.
Have you seen the video about like what the roof is? Like the ceiling?
Oh yeah, it's like a grid. It's like a wire grid.
Scarily.
Yeah.
But all to your point, I don't think it's a wild diversion necessarily, because I think stuff like that is proof that, you know, obviously we've had slowdowns and stuff in the, I don't think theater will ever die. And I don't just mean movie theaters. I mean, any form of visual expression like this, there might be different forms, like maybe, because like even what you're describing used to be the only way to do it with movies, right? They had to do that. And now it's a novelty that moves you to tears. And I don't mean novelty flippantly. I just mean it's novel.
Yeah.
And I think that's cool. Like that, maybe that's something, I'm not suggesting this, but like maybe that is something that just starts having people go like, hey, you know, IMAX is one thing, but for 3 weeks, we're doing live orchestra for God. All right. The orchestra couldn't do it. You know, 3 shows a day.
Yeah, the musicians. Now, I mean, listen, I hope that my wife works in the world of professional theatre and, you know, theatre, and that is still very much, that is very, very much thriving. And I, you know, the looming threat of generative AI, etc., on us all, it is a sort of beacon of hope that the audiences are still there for that. And, you know, people were like, this new moving picture thing will kill the theatre. And it hasn't. I think there is, you know, it does make me nervous that the economy of the industry we work in is based on vast numbers of people watching the very expensive things that we do, and hopefully we can continue to do that. But I'm optimistic that after that people are sniffing out the human the humanity and stuff that people have slaved over. And the tech billionaires aside, I think that most people realize that if eventually there's you replace everyone's job, then there's no consumers for anything anyway. So yeah, I mean, here's hoping. But you're right. There's a magic in performance, however we capture it, that is sort of at the heart of all of it.
Well, I 1,000,000% agree. That's almost verbatim what I've been when people talk about either AI or consolidation of whatever the opposite of the Paramount legal vertical integration thing was. But even like I run these college ski trips every winter, so I'm around young people often, and they're it's kind of weird. They simultaneously use ChatGPT for everything.
Yeah.
Everything, which that's a problem. But and then also don't like technology. Like so many of them are like, they're all buying point and shoot cameras, yes, to share on Instagram, but like so many of them are like keeping the phone in the bag. Like they're not trying to, they know they're missing out on life now, which is not their fault. Yeah. It's just the arc of technology hit them in one specific place. But I think the AI also the problem with it, what did Ben Affleck say? Like saying I don't like AI is like saying I don't like electricity. Like there's a lot of different, the cleanup thing that Adobe makes that makes this podcast sound good when I've got a guy with AirPods in. Goodness. But I am also not even cautiously optimistic, but there is kind of we have to get over this part to get to the next part kind of thing going on.
I think there's just the creative drive in humanity is very, very strong, going back to shadows on the cave wall and paintings on the cave wall. And I think we're always going to want to do that. But the format of what that takes those kids or their kids might find creatively interesting may not be appealing to us, but that's always happened throughout history. Like, what is considered art is like, what's fine art, what's high culture versus low culture. That is a debate as old as culture itself. And there will always be people saying like, well, this doesn't count because it's this. And Ben Affleck is right, and it's like it makes me think about Tim Minchin quite a bit. He didn't quite mean the same thing, but when he's like, do you know what they call alternative medicine that's been proven to work? Medicine. And like with AI, like everything's AI until it just becomes like the tool in Logic Pro that lets you automatically make stems from your track in like one click, and like then it just becomes that tool that does the thing. So. Let's see. I'd like messy people stuff, and in terms of all the, I was just lucky enough to host the BSC Q&A for Train Dreams with Adolfo Veloso. Has just been.
I interviewed Adolfo.
He's the loveliest guy.
Comes out next week.
Oh, he's the best, and like all power to him. For a beautiful bit of work, which like also. Cinematographically, his taste could not be further from mine in terms of I'm all about the style. He's all about beautiful, natural, he's amazing. He came through documentary, and I can't say enough good things about Adolfo, but like
his
Netflix
eye for composition is nuts.
It's great. Netflix, when after that, they put all those people together, they made that thing. It's like,
I thought Netflix bought it.
Well, I think Netflix, I remember Netflix suggested it was made, or maybe Black Bag did it. In any case, it's something that Netflix hugely proud of, and is on their platform. And like, so I'm like, come on, guy, complaining about Devil Wears Prada. Show me some frames from that and tell me that the dream of Terrence Malick is not like alive and well. Like, I think. There's plenty of beautiful work being done across the board.
Yeah, but of course that guy's then going to complain about the shutter speed stuff.
I thought the shutter was great. Adolfo said in my interview with him, he was like, "Oh, I never went to that class in film school that said you couldn't just use it as a tool." And I'm like, that's a really good point.
No, he said the same thing to me.
I'm like, I get annoyed when we're not at like 172.6 instead of 8, depending on whether we're like 23.98 or 24. And I'm like, and it was like, why, this is just another tool. He's absolutely right. And like, why use all of the stuff?
Well, and also it served like, I don't love the fast shutter thing look necessarily, but just as a stylistic choice. But he's so right that it is a tool. Like, why not? Where he really sold, what's that?
It's on the camera. It's a button on the camera. Like,
yeah, it's not locked.
Yeah.
But the thing that he really sold me on, talk about meeting art where it is, was the idea that this whole thing is supposed to be a box of photographs, and the use of the shutter being like, depending on the photograph, things are sharp, the memory, things are sharp, things are blurry, and that was the artistic tool for that. And I was like, that actually, unless you made that up on the spot just to placate me, that is brilliant thinking.
Yeah.
Because no one else would do that. No one else would think that deep about it.
You said the same to me. Yeah. I watched it several times because I knew I was in the Q&A, and because I cried the first time I watched it. So I had to pay attention to it. And the last time I watched it, I was like, it also works as an incredibly powerful metaphor for our lives in the film industry. Like, heading out away from family, meeting a bunch of, I've definitely met that guy who's like, is there nowhere on this earth that man gets peace? He's on set somewhere. And just the world changing constantly around you. You think you know your way around a handsaw, and suddenly a chainsaw turns up, and you're like, wait, that's, and I think the film itself has like the boots that are nailed to the tree. Like, we're all making this stuff, and ultimately, like, what will survive of us is all these various boots nailed to various trees that are gradually being eaten by nature. Like, who knows? Desperately proud of Hijack now. Will you still be able to watch Hijack in 50 years, 100 years? Like, when those AI robot alien, whatever they are from Spielberg's AI movie turn up, and they're like picking out human civilization and finding Haley Joel Osment and that there. Like, are they going to be like, cool, what's this new show on Apple TV? So I think there's interesting. And that's, I got all of that out of a film that's on Netflix. Like, that's, humans do that. ChatGPT doesn't make a film that makes you think about stuff like that. It's just like, here's some ideas that look like some blog posts that I ripped off the internet. So
yeah. Well, and like I said, those same kids using ChatGPT for everything are also, I think, clamoring for, again, human connection, especially the ones that, in their young formative years were locked inside for the pandemic, right? Those kids don't even, the number of times, like, it's so weird to me. Like, I went to a very big party school. They've cleaned up their act a little. But, my college years were.
Yeah.
Yeah. My college. Say again.
It was a super spreader college. That was where COVID really got teeth. Yeah. But
telling kids, oh, I went to Arizona State, whatever. And on these ski trips I'm talking about, they go, oh, what was it like to do those like millennial house parties?
Right.
And I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, yeah, we don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
So they want to experience that. They want to experience like, and I think it does have to do with the documentation. Everyone's got a phone. Everyone's really afraid of evidence, which is fair.
Yeah.
But I think people are. The reason I'm harping on like young kids is because that's who's going to obviously carry whatever this new flavor of anything is, and they are seemingly desperate for human connection, human stories, messiness, and so on.
And I think the messiness that they will do will be, in parts inspiring and terrifying to the generations that came before them, as has always happened. It's like, I don't like this new music.
Right.
And that's, that's how it goes. But like, it's fun when you're in the flow of it.
Yeah, it
I
reminds me
I
of.
want to come back. I want to come back in 200 years. Don't you think that? I'm just like, I want to see how it turns out.
I mean, that's why I love like Star Trek and stuff. It's versus Silo, which is the opposite.
Yeah. Cylinder worlds.
Yeah. Well, like I said, we'll give you after 3, you get a free.
Oh yeah, we didn't do
Sunday.
my magic trick. I burned that by being late, so
yeah,
it's fine.
Well, I'll do it for you. I'll text it to you.
Okay. Look forward to that.
Yeah, great chatting, and I'll let you know when I get through the show when it's out.
It's always a pleasure, man. Enjoy the rest of Hijack if you get a chance to watch.
Oh, I will. I mean, I will get a chance, and I will enjoy it. All right, bye-bye.
It's good fun. Take it easy, Kelly.
Frame and Reference is an Owlbot production, produced and edited by me, Kenny McMillan. If you'd like to support the podcast directly, you can do so by going to frameandrefpod.com and clicking on the Patreon button. It's always appreciated, and as always, thanks for listening.